And so many of you, I never saw that before. That was so cool. Got it. I love the new slang. Even my, of course, Siri is all slangy now. So I want to thank all of you for being here, taking the time out of your Saturday morning. And hopefully we will really get through with this by noon, if not before. I just wanted to say one thing, that in the past, when I taught this, I try to give so many details. And I realize that's sort of more my nature. I like details. My goal today really is to make you very comfortable with this practice and where to find resources to inspire you further to learn about the visualizations and how it works. And they, of course, would be from places. And I had a reference sheet that was on one of these handouts, but I noticed it's not there anymore. But my references have really changed over time. And this is one of my main references. I highly recommend you get this book by Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. It's just called Chenrezig. The subtitle is For the Benefit of All Beings. That's the actual title of the sadhana that we're doing. And the story of this book is very interesting. Many years ago, I remember, I think it was 2014, we were told that Rinpoche was teaching on Chenrezig, and we were all excited. And then we were told, no, you can't go. It's only for Spanish-speaking people. And I thought that was rather amazing. And there was a very large group that came from South America and Mexico and many other people that were Spanish speakers that live here in America. And so the first half of this book is all Spanish in the event that you speak Spanish. In the middle is the sadhana, which is in English. Oh, I didn't think to look to see if it was, and it's translated in Spanish. But then the second half of the book, someone went to Rinpoche and said, could we also, it was such a beautiful teaching, could we also translate this into English? And so they did. The translator who did the Tibetan to Spanish also helped with that, as did a few other wonderful people. And so our monastery published that. And again, I highly recommend this book because this is basically going to be using the exact same commentary that I'm using today. So before we start, I thought I should really ask to sort of see a show of hands. I know a lot of people don't have they're not live anymore. Who does the Chenrezig practice? I'm going to keep going. Let me keep going to the next page. There's John, there's Sally. Hi, Sally. Okay. So how many of you have never had an introduction to a deity practice? So most of you have had introductions. So like Jean Morgan, what practice have you been introduced to before? Maybe she doesn't hear me. So if anyone could unmute to tell me, if you don't do Chenrezig, what other practices have you learned from before, but attended a teaching? None? Tracy, have you gone to any other sadhana classes?
Oh, yes.
You have, okay. So maybe this is new for a lot of people. Oh, I like Peter's background. That's a great background. And Caitlin, you've been at Medicine Buddha, right? Caitlin Ann Arbor. It's so much fun when we're all muted. Okay, well, that's all right. Seems like everyone's muted right now. I don't know why.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear someone now, yes.
Okay, so this is Jeannie Morgan. I'm sorry, I didn't know whether I was muted or not, so I was typing my response into the chat, so I
Oh,
apologize.
I'm sorry, I don't read the chat.
Nope.
I'm on an iPad, so it's harder to read it.
Nope, that's fine. I'm brand new to Buddhism, to answer your question. So
that's great.
this is my first.
Thank you, thank you. So so I apologize to those of you that have taken other deity classes, so you will have heard a little bit of what I'm going to say next. So at our center, the name of our center is Columbus Karma Texan Chilling, or KTC as we affectionately call it. And it's really the place, the translation is the place of the teachings of the Buddha according to the three vehicles, which are Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Most of us, when we're first introduced to Buddhism, learn how to do the quiet meditation called shamatha, or the calm abiding. And that's more of the Hinayana view of more self-realization, basically to take care of yourself a little bit, center yourself. Then as we progress, and sometimes this goes on simultaneously, you don't have to be fully mastered in that to move on. That's what's beautiful about Vajrayana. And then many of us have a propensity or wish to learn to become and develop more compassion in our lives and not to be so self-centered. And that would be more in the Mahayana tradition. And we do many different practices, particularly sending and receiving. And Lama Cathy does some beautiful classes in that area. That's kind of one of her specialties. Then to make this a little more unique, what we're doing today is a Vajrayana practice, which is an integration of the other two and Himalayan style Buddhism, where not only do we do a quiet meditation, we focus on compassion for all living beings, but we do it through a different tool called the deity, which looks like an external being, but isn't. This is actually, so I'll give you the picture on that book. This is a good picture of Chenrezig. This is a picture of a deity. Some people are from, he's also Chenrezig. His Sanskrit name is Avalokiteshvara. He's also known as Kuan Yin more in the Asian circles. So these are, and Tibetan Buddhism is famous for its iconography and its art. And its art is primarily deities that are used for meditation. They're meditation tools, the paintings. So the deity has features. Sometimes they have 2 arms, sometimes 4, sometimes 1,000. And everything has heavy symbolism. How they sit, where their legs are, if they have something white behind them, if they're sitting on a moon or a sun. All of this iconography has very deep meaning. So today we're going to be studying probably what I would call the introduction to how to do a deity practice. Chenrezig practice is rather universal. Well, I shouldn't say universal. It's used throughout all of Tibet. Now it is more universal, and the practice has been introduced throughout the world. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is considered an emanation of Chenrezig, as is our 17th Gyalwar Karmapa. And when we do these practices, it looks like something's external, but at some point in the practice, that quality of love and compassion, which is in this practice, that's focus, enters into you. And you might say reignites that memory of who you truly are. And so that is the point of this practice, is some sort of a different type of identification. And it's very simple. You just realize as you do the practice over time that this quality of love and kindness, compassion, not only in you, but everywhere you see, everyone you meet, no matter what they say to you. So the practice really revs that up deeply within your core. And due to the blessings of the millennium of so much timeline, of so many beings, not necessarily humans, that have been doing this from time without beginning, this practice has incredible power behind it, the power of love, to quote a song. So first I'm going to talk about, pardon me, what? Oh, I'm sorry. So when at our center, we say we're going to be doing a Chenrezig practice. I don't know if any of you have your sadhanas with you. This is our prayer book. It's unbound. And this Chenrezig packet, if you ever buy it from our monastery, which I can give you the link, over the years, we trained them what we needed, and it's full of all kinds of prayers. So this packet is not just Chenrezig, it's our lineage prayer, our Chenrezig, Amitabha, 7 verses of Guru Rinpoche. So this is a beautiful prayer packet, you might say. We even, in our center, include a page for mudras that Mama Cathy did. So that's later on when you learn Amitabha practice. But today I'm going to just go into the text of Chenrezig. So let me get it here. Okay, let me begin. So does anyone have their Chenrezig sadhana? Anyone have it with them? You don't have to. All right. Oh, you have the 8.5 by 11. Thank you. Oh, I forgot. I think I have one of those. I forgot I have an actual printed one. Thank you. I'm so used to my sadhana because I've taught from this for years and I never would teach a class unless I would sell the text right here at the class, but we can't do that right now. So if you have it, I will refer to the pages in here, only because I have so many notes in it. But Tracy, you can go ahead and put the sadhana up now. And this is the 8.5 by 11 version. So today we're going to be going through the sadhana, the prayer book, we'll just call it the prayers. And along with it, simultaneously, to describe what's going on, we're going to use a commentary. Beautiful, thank you.
Quick check-in. Can everybody see me scroll through this?
Yes, I can. Thank you so
Fabulous.
much.
Just want to make sure.
Great. So you can go to the first page, I think, where it shows a picture of Chenrezig. It'll be a few pages out. This is the Mahamudra lineage prayer that we're not going to do today because of timeline. Okay, and you can stop right here for a second. Thank you. So in part of the text, we will actually visualize this Chenrezig above our head in this practice because this is a beginning sadhana to learn from. Later on, that either deity will be often in front of you, but here he's right above our head, which is very intimate. And I will talk later, but I just wanted to show you what he looks like. And this is used using all kinds of colors. Traditionally, he's actually made of white light, but we can't see things made out of just white light. Okay, you keep going, Tracy. Okay, what, could you go back just 1 second? Thank you. So the text is actually called, I'm gonna look at mine. This book contains the recitation for the meditation of the Great Compassionate One. Chenrezig is often always referred to that. He's considered the culmination of all compassion of all Buddhists in one. And the text itself is called for the benefit of all beings as vast as space is usually the translation. Sometimes somebody uses the word skies, but I like space better. And okay, keep going. Thank you. Okay, so we can stop right here for a few minutes. So before I completely go in, if any of you have I'm pulling up my other notes. Oh no, I'm on my husband's iPad and it's different than mine. Oh great, all right. I'll just have to use my handout. Let me just try and get out of this. Excellent. I'm not used to this whole concept of having to touch, using my finger to touch something and open it, but this is great, it works well. So what we've also given you, and I'll look here to see, Tracy so kindly included, she included the outline of the workshop, and that includes the actual commentary on this practice. So it's not unusual for a sadhana, this sadhana, so I should talk about the origin of this practice. A wonderful famous saint in Tibet in the 1300s, he lived in the 14th and 15th century in Tibet, and he wandered throughout the countryside, and he was considered what we would maybe call a yogi. And he had very powerful connections with many different meditation practices, meaning these type of deity practices, including Chenrezig. And at one point, Chenrezig appeared to him and gave him this practice. So he wrote it down, and that's not unusual. That's considered kind of what we call a sky dharma transmission. So he was given that. Now, I don't have a picture of him right in front of me, but he often is this rather large man seated with a big beard. And he always is holding an iron, like metal links in one hand, because his true activity, why he wanted to help, how he wanted to be compassionate to everyone in Tibet, was to build iron bridges across those great crevasses. Because so many times people would have accidents or die going down the mountainsides or climbing up. So he built a great deal of bridges. And so he is, and his name is Tam Tang Gyalpo, and he is the person who put this text on paper. But so that's what we're reading. But what I'm going to instruct you on the visualizations is from the 15th Karmapa. Let me see if it's on here. And his name is Kakyab Dorje. I'm just going to call him the Karmapa, the 15th Karmapa. And there's many commentaries, but this seems to be the favored one of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. The 17th Karmapa has a beautiful teaching on this on his website, karmapa.org, I think. And he teaches also from the same text. And the text is called the commentary. So we have the sadhana, and the commentary is called A Continuous Rain to Benefit Beings. So the title is what? Filling Space to Benefit Beings. That's another title. And the commentary is A Continuous Rain to Benefit Beings. And he says the text is divided in 6 sections. Now, we could go through those sections, but I think the most important thing for you to know is almost every deity practice you do begins with a type of refuge. This is one style of refuge prayer. And there in other texts, Medicine Buddha and Green Tara, were written by a different author, and they have a different style. They always begin with refuge, which really enforces your purpose of doing this practice. So just looking at this page here, it says first refuge and raising the bodhicitta. So the first 2 stanzas. So a stanza will be where it says Sanjay Chodang Soki Chognamla. I'm reading in the Tibetan. I'm reading actually for you, I'm reading the transliteration. So we're looking there, you see little scribbles, and that is the Tibetan language. And underneath it is called a transliteration of how we can say it in English. So it's Sanjay Chodang Soki Chognamla. And underneath that is the translation. So it reads, until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha. Well, refuge in this sense, there's actually 2 parts. And the second one will be the next stanza. So these are 4 different stanzas. The first 2 for refuge and the second 2 for bodhicitta. But I completely forgot something. When I first learned this back in, oh my gosh, was it 1987, 88? I volunteered to transcribe Khenpo Rinpoche's teaching on Chenrezig, which is very different. He didn't exactly use this text, this commentary, but I felt a very deep connection with the practice. And I feel it's a little startling just to jump in like this. Well, what I did not know in all the commentaries, there's something we do beforehand. So I'm going to read this to you. This is from the commentary. It's very beautiful. So these are the elaborate instructions we're going to do today. First of all, remember that all visualizations are not to be solid, to be made of brilliantly clear and pure light. This 15th Karmapa says, the deity is clear and bright, shining, yet empty like a rainbow. So they're almost like a laser. They're not solid the way we make everything solid. They're not solid. And this is what we do before we take refuge, because it's sort of vague who you're really taking refuge in here. First, you visualize that you are your ordinary self. That's important. In the sky in front of you, however high or low you want, amidst shining clouds, brilliant rainbows, and heavenly flowers, sits your root guru in the form of Chenrezig. And he's surrounded by all enlightened beings of the past, present, and future. So again, your ordinary self, in the sky in front of you, in this beautiful setting, is your root guru, is Chenrezig. Know that he is the embodiment of the three jewels. That's the Buddha, his teachings, and the community. So this is very rich language, very elaborate, just to let you know. So I'm going to keep trying to make it really simple. So you're you, Chenrezig's in the sky in front, and with all sentient beings, and you and everyone of all the realms gather together and pray together in unison with faith, yearning, and belief. And knowing that your Guru Chenrezig is able to shelter all beings from suffering, yearning to seek this protection, and believing that such a refuge is definitely to be obtained, you then recite the refuge vow. Now, just to let all of you know, what I just read is the other handout, the outline. So if you're able to do that, you can follow along when I do that. So when we put our hands in prayer for several practices. I'm trying to figure out why I can't be seen here. Do you know why, Tracy? Can't, maybe no, I didn't. Usually I can be seen usually like in the corner. I can't, maybe because you're hosting it. That's probably why. That's all right. Then I'll just have you, can you put your hands together in prayer? Thank you. So, so we would put our hands together in prayer. I'm a little lower, more at your heart. And you don't squish your hands. It's almost like a little jewels in between your two hands. And then we do this, and we're going to sing it together. And there is a tune for this practice. Sanjay, so you can join me. And don't worry how you sound. It's more from your heart. Sanjay Chudan Soki Jonamla Janchu Bardu Dani Gyatsuji Dagi Gensog Ibesunamki Dola Penchu Sanjay Doparsho. This prayer was written by Lord Atisha, and any big gathering, any Buddhist gathering with Tibetans, I would say you're always going to just know this prayer over time by heart. It's really lovely. So let's do that again. So let's first just read the English together. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. And again, for people that are new, we're taking refuge in what's called the three jewels. We're not worshiping. We're going for refuge to seek, you might say, guidance in the Buddha and his teachings, and those that are disseminating his teachings now to the community. Then we take the bodhisattva vow or renew it. Through the merit of accomplishing the six perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all beings. And when you study this in books, sometimes teachers will spend pages and pages of instructions on these four little lines, but we don't have enough time today. So let's do it one more time together in Tibetan. Sanjay Chodan Soki Chonamla Janchu Bardu Dani Gyatsuji Dagi Gensog Ibesunamki Dola Penchir Sanjay Doparsho. Now you can put your hands down in your lap. Okay, Tracy, you can move it. Perfect. Oh, great. Thank you. Maybe try a little bit more. Can we get all that up there? Almost. That's all right. And now we actually, oh, perfect. That's just perfect. So now, after we visualize the sky in front of us, our object of refuge was Chenrezig, and the entire lineage of Chenrezig, you and all sentient beings then took refuge in Chenrezig. Now, and by the way, I should mention many instructions. So this text is very concise, and it's meant to be slightly such that if somebody walked by and they weren't doing this practice, they might not understand everything, because a lot of things are meant to be more instructional. So after we did that, so I'm going to just read what the 15th Karmapa had said about this. So you recite the refuge prayer, and then thinking that all beings have been your parents in past lives, and knowing how much they suffer, you decide to bring them to Buddhahood, the pinnacle of happiness. But knowing that at this time you're not able to accomplish that, you also decide to practice a profound meditation of Chenrezig and vow that when you've achieved Chenrezig's most excellent state, you can help beings as long as the world exists. And thinking in that way, then you recite the bodhisattva vow, the heart of enlightenment. After you've done those two vows, and before we even begin the next part of the text, there's two other visualizations we do. Visualize that light streams from the Chenrezig, who's above your head, and strikes yourself and all sentient beings. As it touches us and them, it washes away all of anything that is negative, any suffering, and brings happiness. And visualize that the sources of refuge, which is Chenrezig, dissolves into light and melts into yourself, thus blessing the stream of your being. So basically, we visualize Chenrezig in front of us, or you can have him be on your head, whichever is easier. And then we paid homage. We then did refuge prayer. We did the bodhisattva vow. And then after we did that, we again went back to visualizing Chenrezig and receiving from him the blessing of removing all of our suffering, bringing happiness, and then actually melting into light into you and filling you with that blessing. So that is a very common thread in the Vajrayana practices, where your being is actually filled with blessings constantly. Okay. So now we go on, and what I would call the main part 2, which is, I guess it is part 2 on your also, is how to bring the real deity to the room, and what does the deity look like? So the next part, let's first read it in English. In the text, there it is. It says, visualization of the deity on the crown of myself, and you guys can all chime in, on the crown of myself and all beings present throughout space, on a moon and white lotus, is a Hri from which Chenrezig arises. So if you look on the Tibetan line, you see the word Hri right above this. And then you see a little symbol with 2 little circles in back of it. That is actually the seed syllable of Chenrezig. So Chenrezig is also equated with the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. And in the middle of that mantra in the visualization is the seed syllable Hri. It's H-R-I-H, has a little aspiration to it. Hri, you almost breathe through it. And so if you cannot visualize that Tibetan symbol, which many people can't, visualize H-R-I-H. So I'll start again. On the crown of myself and all beings present throughout space, on a moon and white lotus, is a Hri from which Chenrezig arises, radiating clear white light suffused with the 5 colors. So I'm going to stop there for a second. So reading this, Chenrezig is already here. Well, there's actually a method to bringing the deity to the room. And here it is. If you're looking at the handout, I'm trying to find, I have to keep touching this iPad. There it is. It would now be on the bottom of page 2, where it says the actual practice. I'm not sure if mine is identical, but it's pretty close. Visualize that you are your ordinary self, surrounded as before by all the beings of the 6 realms of existence. We haven't gone through that. That's sort of part of more Buddhist information. But just to let you know, we believe in many different realms, including realms where beings suffer from anger. It's called the hell realms, suffer from greed and miserliness, the hungry ghost, animals, some of which our realm is close to animals, so we actually get to see them. But there's so many different types of animals, wild animals, animals in the ocean, and then our wonderful animals that live with us. Then we also, the next realm are humans, and we suffer from many things. My favorite two things we suffer from is not getting what we want, and the next one is getting what we don't want. We often are considered suffering a great deal from desire and greed also. The next realm is the anger god realm, or the asuras, and they suffer from a great deal of jealousy. And lastly are the god realms, and some people equate them to what we would call movie stars, where basically everything is perfect for them. But in the god realm, about a week before they die, they suddenly start to smell. So everyone knows something's wrong and abandons them. And because of the way the realm works, they can actually see what wonderful merit they had, and that they had done nothing that lifetime to help others. They were very self-centered, have a great deal of pride. So they will be born somewhere else the next lifetime, no longer sitting pretty like that. So those are the realms we talk about all the time. So again, I'll start again. I'm going to be looking at the handout, and I'm on page 2 at the bottom, where it says actual practice 1, meditation on the deity. Visualize you're your ordinary self, surrounded as before by beings of all these different realms. Above your head, the head of all sentient beings, appears an 8-petaled lotus flower. On top of the lotus, so you visualize a lotus. I'm trying to think, what did they say? So this is all happening above your head. You visualize just a lotus, and it could be made of light. On top of that is a moon, but it's just a flat moon disc. Some Tibetans call them moon carpets, but it's just a flat disc, the moon laying flat down on top of the very open part of the lotus. And these all have different symbolisms. The lotus is the essence of loving kindness. The full moon disc is the essence of compassion. And on the moon disc is that seed syllable again, free, H-R-I or H-R-I-H. And it's standing straight up, it's not laying down. So there's, on top of your head is a lotus, a little moon tucked into on top of the lotus, and a free syllable standing straight up. It's all going on right here above your head. The Ri is pearl white and shining, and is the embodiment of power and might of all the Buddhas. And it is the essence of aspiration bodhicitta. And now comes a little action. From that Ri on top of your head shines innumerable rays of moonlight. And they first go out and up to the whole multitude of all Buddhas in the 10 directions, making offerings to them, offerings that are delightful, the body, speech, and mind. So again, I'll repeat. You are your ordinary self. Above your head is a lotus. You're just imagining this. And above that is a moon, a syllable Ri or H-R-I-H. A light from that shoots out and up, making offerings to all the Buddhas, comes back to the Ri, and then the light shines downward and removing the suffering of all sentient beings. The light comes back to the Ri on your head, and in that moment, Chenrezig appears, seated on a lotus on your head. So this is how almost in every deity practice we do, there's a method of bringing the deity. And the lotus, as I mentioned, the moon, all of this has many different types of meanings. But today we're going to keep it really simple. And if that was all too much, this is what you do. You're yourself. On top of your head is an imagined lotus with Chenrezig seated on it. And there is a moon underneath him. And if you look at the iconography, I'll show you later, you can see a little moon mats there. So this is Chenrezig, and he's now above our head. It's pretty cool. So now let's go through his features. And they're so beautifully described right here. So now let's look at the line where it says, they zoom, his eyes gaze in compassion, and his smile is loving. Of his 4 arms, so he has 4 arms, his first 2 are joined in prayer, and the lower 2 hold a crystal rosary and a white lotus. He is arrayed in silks and jewels and ornaments. I'll go into this in more detail. And on his left shoulder, he wears I'm going to look at my picture. This is the best way I can do all of this. He wears, yes, on his left shoulder, he wears the robe of an antelope called a tinasara deer. And they're famous for, I read many stories where they would never, they're always, if they were hunters in the area, they would get in front of the animal that was being hunted and would give themselves up before the other animal would be killed. They're very selfless. And on his head is the ornament of Amitabha, Buddha of boundless light. So in this picture, there it is. Do you see the red Buddha there? There's a red Buddha here. That is Amitabha. And above Chenrezig's, and okay, Tracy, you can move it a little bit. Great. And now we're going over to page, whatever it is. Okay, great. Okay, now, and as we keep going, his 2 feet are in the Vajra posture. We would call that the lotus posture. They're in full lotus. In the back of him is a stainless moon, is his backrest. And he is the essential nature of all in whom we take refuge. So I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to show you the picture of him from the book cover because this is very beautiful. So let's look at him again. Do you see the moon mat? He's seated on lotus, moon mat, and he has 4 arms. And I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. There is sort of a backrest, symbolic. He never turns his back on any suffering. Above his head is Amitabha, the red Buddha. But I thought using Rinpoche's book, I would read this section because it's half of this book I think is all outlined. This is so beautiful, but he does such a beautiful job on describing this. So I'm sorry, I'm reading this again. I'm going to read this from Rinpoche's book. This book is by Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. He's my teacher, my guru, who died in 2019. He was 95. And he loved teaching Chenrezig practice to so many beings. So to review this visualization in brief, as it is given in the practice text, above the crown of your head and those of all other beings throughout space, there appears a great white lotus flower. Above that, a disk of white moonlight, like a full moon. Above the moon, the syllable Hri. The light radiates from the syllable Ri. Of course, we said to the Buddhas and the sentient beings, and returns and absorbed into the Ri, which transforms into the noble and sublime Chenrezig. And here's his description again. His form is white, radiant with a 5-color iridescent light. He's smiling affectionately. He continuously gazes upon all beings with compassionate eyes. He has 4 arms. The palm of his first 2 hands are joined in prayer. His second right hand holds a crystal mala, and his second left hand a white lotus flower. He is adorned with various silken garments and precious ornaments. His left breast is covered by Pinishara pelt, adorned with a golden design. The protector Amitabha, the lord of Chenrezig's family of awakened beings, crowns his head. And Chenrezig is seated with 2 legs fully crossed in the Vajra or lotus posture, signifying that he never deviates from his altruistic aims. Flawless, he appears against a backdrop of stainless moonlight. And also, as I said, that symbolized he never turns away from suffering. Countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are united with him. Sorry, let me read that again. Countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are unified within the single figure of the noble Avalokita or Chenrezig. He is the complete, all-inclusive embodiment of the source of refuge. So I wanted to just read a few more pointers on this that were in the handout, because let me look at the time. The 50th Karmapa does such beautiful details on who the person is for visualizing. And I haven't said this yet, but when you do this at home, and you're going to have all the tools to do this, you can do this at home. We have group practice on Tuesday nights and at least one Sunday at 10 we do it. I'm not sure which. When we go to a workshop, you're just introduced to certain concepts, but you're given a lot of tools. You have the text, you have the actual text, which looks like an outline, but is the actual text of the commentary written by the 15th Karmapa. And then we're giving you all kinds of different references on YouTube and other places, really to enrich your understanding of this. So what you're doing today is like a practice study of how to begin doing these practices. Don't think you have to remember everything. That's why you have handouts. So I'm going to go through and give a little bit more details. I used to have a handout that had so many details, but it was overwhelming. So I'm glad I don't do that anymore. So let's go over it again. Chenrezig's color is brilliantly white, but at the same time, he's radiating it's in 5 hues, but mostly white. As the light fills the Buddha realms, it exhorts all Buddhas to administer to the welfare of beings. As the light fills the 6 realms of ordinary beings, I talked about the hell beings, all the way to the gods. As it fills the 6 realms of ordinary beings, it eases each one's suffering and fosters happiness. Chenrezig's white color is symbolic of his quality of mind, never stained by selfishness, aversion, or attachment. The white light radiating from him shows he works mainly by peaceful means. The 5 colors symbolizes that he benefits beings in any way that is necessary. The fine-featured smiling countenance, gazing on all beings with a loving, so maybe I'll put this in my own words. The word Chenrezig, Chen and Rezig, has to do with his eyes. It is the gaze a mother has for her tender child. Mothers have a very special look for their children. I don't have children, but I've seen the gaze. I felt the gaze from my mother. And that is the gaze he has for all sentient beings, for everyone. He never turns his back on suffering, and he is there for everyone. He has 4 hands that are, of course, symbolic, or 4 arms, maybe we should say. First and foremost, it's symbolic of his activity, which are the 4 immeasurables, which is immeasurable loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. But let's talk about where they're placed. The first 2 arms or hands are in prayer at his heart, and holding between them is a wish-fulfilling jewel, which Chenrezig always holds. It's often depicted as a little blue orb. His right lower hand holds a crystal rosary, again symbolic that his compassion has no beginning or end. A rosary, so some of you, if you're raised Catholic, you would know what a rosary is. But in the Buddhist tradition, we use what we call malas or rosaries. So here's one. It has no beginning or end. It's a continuous prayer bead. His lower left hand holds a white lotus and its stem. And usually, where's the picture? My book is open, that's why I can't find it. And so this is symbolic. He's holding actually a lotus and a lotus flower. I was shocked when I lived in India when I was younger to find a gigantic, mucky place just filled with the most beautiful lotuses. Lotuses live kind of in mud. That's how they flourish. But as they come up through, as the buds are huge, and when they come up, they look like they're coated with Teflon. None of that mud sticks to them. And when they open up, they're absolutely gorgeous. Though right inches away is filth. I'm always amazed how lotuses open up like that. So that is the symbolism there. And that is why he holds a lotus. So that was page 2 of this. Moving on, his clothing. I have not said this, and I should have said this earlier. I'm sorry. So we do several different types of practices at our center. We do practices of bodhisattvas and of Buddhas. We do medicine Buddha and we do Amitabha. So medicine Buddha is a blue Buddha for healing. Amitabha is the head of the lotus family. There's 5 Buddha families. Chenrezig and Tara are part of that family. So as you notice, Chenrezig has Amitabha above his head. And so I'm trying to think where I was going here. Oh yeah. So when you do a practice of the Buddhas, they wear the robes of a Nirmanakaya Buddha. They look like Shakyamuni Buddha, but with different color skin possibly. But whenever you do a practice with a bodhisattva, which is a little different than a Buddha, some would say a bodhisattva is not yet a Buddha. Some would say Chenrezig is a Buddha, but it's just all words. But a bodhisattva always is very rich and full of ornamentation. So he has a crown, he is wearing jewels, he's wearing beautiful silk clothing. He's not just wearing a plain, cotton robes. He's very magnificent, as this picture would depict. It's very elaborate with him, as you can see. So moving on to describing him, and I'm sorry I don't have all the descriptions, but he does wear a blouse, and it's made of the finest silk and has very special embroidery in actual gold. And he wears silk ribbons on his hair and around him. And he also has, he wears a red silk skirt that has full of design. And his body is adorned. And this is for all bodhisattvas. They all have the same number, pretty much, of ornaments. They have a certain number of necklaces. I think they have 3. They all have symbolism. He has a wristlet, an armlet, something around his upper arm. So he also has a very special belt he wears that is full of tinkling bells. Remember, she always liked to say that. So he's a very beautiful outfit. And so many of the features that he's wearing is made of gold that is from this earth and is set with gems from heavenly realms. Over his left shoulder, covering his left breast, is the antelope, the Tinasata deer, the legendary animal, said to be so kind that it never harms any beings and always tries to help other beings not to be harmed. And his hair is unique, but it's good to learn. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on his hair. He has black hair. He's wearing a special, this is a crown. The gold is a crown. I'm sorry, I touched his face. And you see a little black at the very top of his head. His hair, my hair is not a good example, is a very long hair. Half of it is pulled up in a top knot here, and the rest falls down his back. And above that, he wears the 5 Buddha crown that all bodhisattvas wear. And then the Buddha Amitabha, the head of Chenrezig's Buddha family, the Pema or the Lotus family, he sits upon Chenrezig's head, holding a begging bowl, and in his hand, he's holding the begging bowl, and he's wearing the 3 Dharma robes of the Nirmanakaya Buddha. Chenrezig's feet and legs are in full lotus, meaning that his skillful means and compassion are inseparable, and there is a full stainless moon disc as his backrest. So I think that's enough for all the description I've given you. And we think of Chenrezig as the complete fusion of all those that we've taken refuge in. And thinking in this way, we recite these lines, which are these lines that we're reciting. So before we go to break, let's recite these lines now. Could we go back up a little bit, Tracy? We'll go back up and we'll actually sing this part. Good, that's perfect. I thought so. We'll just start here. So now we're going to sing the same tune at this point. Dogs, and we don't have to put our hands in prayer because we're not supplicating. That's so sem chengi jitsu pekarda weden relay bacho Chenrezig karsalo zenga dendro zezun tuche chenjisi jaji dapo tajaze uni sheltrin begarnam dardarinchen ingetre rida papeto yotso opa mebe orgenshen jani dorje gyodronjo rime dawa gyaptenba gyabne kundung oyor. And now we're going to, now that we visualize Chenrezig like this above our head, we say 4 lines that are very special. And let's read them in English. It's under the Jowo. Lord, not touched by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns, gazing compassionately on all beings, to you, Chenrezig, I prostrate. So the tune is just a little different. And you put your hands in prayer here. Jo kongi mako kudogar zo sanje ke ulagen tuje chinji dolasi Chenrezig la jatsala. We say it again. Jo kongi mako kudogar zo sanje ki ulagen tuje chinji dolasi Chenrezig la jatsalo. In English, Lord, not touched by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns, gazing compassionately on all beings, Chenrezig I prostrate. Now looking at the commentary, he says, first, we enjoin the spirit of the deity through prayer. All sentient beings, including yourself, pray in unison, concentrating exclusively on Chenrezig, your root teacher, who is now clearly imagined above your head. You pray with the feeling of asking Chenrezig to liberate yourself and all beings who drown in the ocean of suffering. In this way, recite the 4 lines as many times as you wish, so that you have feeling. Now, looking at the time, I have 1 hour left. I'm going to first, for a moment, I thought maybe we could have a little question and answer. So, Tracy, can you get rid of that now? Is that easy, or would you rather just keep it up?
Are you talking about the spotlight?
I don't know what you're talking about. I was just going to see if anyone has any questions and how's everyone doing.
We're good. They can unmute themselves whenever they need to or raise their hand, whichever they
Thank
prefer.
you. Okay, go ahead. So we're going to take a few minutes break now before we go into, we've already done all the features of Chenrezig. In the actual sadhana, we're now at the top of page 4, just to let you know, if you're using the actual sadhana. I know Helder just got here, so Helder, if you're using your Chenrezig text, that's where we are. Just to let a couple of you know, or many of you know, that in this practice, we have 2 inserts, which are optional. It's actually even written in the commentary. And of course, we like to do as many prayers as we can. So we'll talk about that. But I'm going to fly over them because I want to spend a lot of time more on the deity, on the mantra. So are there any questions? Any comments? How's everyone doing? I can't see anyone, so can I see people? I guess I can switch. No, I can just see them on. What could you just undo the practice for a minute, Tracy? Thank you. Okay, everyone. Somebody's going down the stairs, I saw. So I know people like Justin and Matthew have done this practice before. I'm sorry I'm boring you. But I think it's never hurts to hear it many different ways. So many of you have not done this. Are you lost? How are you doing? I know John has also done the practice. Any comments?
Miss Cathy, you're blacked out.
Oh,
I think you have something in front of the screen where your camera is.
nothing.
Here.
I'll just let me switch it back. There it is.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
Now we see you.
I'm trying. There's nothing. Oh, it's my case is black. That's right. Duh. Okay. So thank you. So are there, does this make sense? Is it really easy now for you to bring the deity to the room? Yes, Kim. Go ahead and unmute. You have to unmute,
Kim,
Kim.
you have to unmute. Hold on.
So to unmute, you have to go to the top of the screen. Oh, I don't know. I have an iPad. It might be different for whatever you're using.
Okay.
There we go. Hi, Kim.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just needed permission to unmute. Okay, so if this might be a little bit out of the scope of this workshop, so if it is, feel free not to spend a long time on it. But I just have a question about the concept of blessing. And I'm asking this in the context that I come across a lot of participants, like I actually lead this practice quite a bit as the head of our Niagara Sangha that's affiliated with Karma Sonam Darjeeling in Toronto. And I come across a lot of practitioners who have confusion about the concept of blessing because it seems like a very much like a religious in the sense of Catholicism or Christianity kind of concept. And I'm wondering how to think about that. Are we thinking about actual beings that are giving us something or giving us permission or bestowing us? That doesn't seem quite right to me because it seems so externally driven. So I guess that's my question.
Okay.
Or if that
That's
doesn't.
that's a great question. You might ask Lama Cathy and other people. I'm trying to think. I just read something about this in one of Rinpoche's books the other day. Maybe it was Karma Chagme. But so Buddhism is a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it's even older, of course, than Christianity. And we do have the concept of blessing. And depending on who you are, some people, I was recently in an Uber and the driver said, "Oh, I heard you Buddhists worship the Buddha." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh," and then he quoted all these people in certain parts of the world that do actually worship the Buddha. It looks like they're worshiping the Buddha. I'm not them, I'm not sure. But the concept of blessing is actually a wondrous thing. And I believe we get blessings in so many different things we do. They say it's just a blessing that we're even learning the Dharma after the Buddha was, around thousands of years ago, that the Buddha Dharma is still so active. But in terms of, you mean blessing like from Chenrezig actually blessing someone? Is that what you mean? Or a person blessing someone? Could you give me an example? You muted yourself. unmute. Kim, can you unmute?
Yes, I can. Yes, I
Great.
can.
Okay,
Sorry,
go ahead.
a bunch of motorcycles went by, so I muted myself
No
again.
problem.
Well, I guess the context would be in the sense that that it would seem like there would be some sort of external power greater than us that could convey this blessing. And that seems like a contradiction to a lot of Western students coming to Buddhism, that it isn't about like an external power bestowing grace on us or saving us or so on. So I guess what I'm saying is it seems it like the questions I'm getting from people is it seems like there is a savior because someone has to bestow this on us.
I mean, even when we take refuge, people could, if they misinterpret it, think that we're looking at Chenrezig or the Buddha as someone above us.
Mhm.
Khenpo Rinpoche many times always reminds us of our own awakened nature.
Mhm.
It's just due to our karma, our kleshas, our neurotic patterns from time without beginning, we're still not awakened beings. So we are actually asking for help. And he always talks about, he loves using the example of going from New York City to the monastery, that he never didn't know the roads in America and had to ask for help, had to ask for directions, and he didn't even know how to use a map.
Mhm.
So a great deal of these type of blessings would be a quality that is within us, but we've not yet awakened to that. So I'm very open to getting blessings. I will give an example. When I was 28, I was in the best shape of my life. No, I was a little older. think I was 40. I was in the best shape of my life. And I had a full brainstem stroke because someone turned my head wrong. And I was put in a facility immediately for rehab. And of course, I went to them for refuge, you might say, to be fixed. But I also called Rinpoche, and they immediately prayed for me. And I deeply believe the power of this. Oh, and the Karma Po was took people out of retreat in Tibet, where he was at that time as a boy, to pray for me and do medicine Buddha. And I know that those blessings brought me back because my brainstem stroke was so serious, they didn't know if I'd ever walk again. So I understand people are very stimulated over not wanting us to look like a religion, but we are a religion in a sense.
Mhm.
And if people don't believe in blessings, I think you could be a Buddhist and not believe in blessings. I think it's something you have to experience. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll ask a question. I don't know if these people practice the bodhisattva vow. Do they pray for other people? Do they engender compassion for others? I mean, that's all
Yeah,
kind of give me
absolutely.
something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that some of the concern that I've heard, which is mainly coming to a few people who have left Western traditions, feeling unhelped,
Yeah.
or judged perhaps, or labeled sinners, as in my own upbringing, which is quite unfortunate, is this idea of like a higher power sort of controlling us. And
Oh no, that's not it
so
at
they
all.
certainly came
Yeah, I
to,
think it's just their fears.
yeah, so just
And unfortunately, people love to equate. It's really not apples to apples, It's
yeah,
more like blueberries to apples. It's very different. So I understand their pain,
yeah,
but maybe they can, if it's too much of a buzzword, then maybe not to emphasize it for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe look up Rinpoche's books. And could you ask Lama Cathy this question?
oh, absolutely,
It would
yeah,
be great to ask her because I'm not very wise compared to her. So
yeah.
it would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're saying though is a very, key point, is that it's not apples to apples, and people tend to want to say, well, how does this relate to that? And how can I reconcile it with this other thing? And maybe we just don't need to do that because it
No.
doesn't line up.
No, yeah. But thank you so much. Excellent question, though. Why don't we take, are there any other questions before we go? Yes?
Yes, there is one. It is, I'm sorry, I am not the person with their hand raised. I only see the 186, the call-in number. They said that they had a question. They raised their hand.
Hi, this is Leona May. Thanks for calling on me. Something that helps me a lot is remembering that what helps me a lot in Buddhism is that all of this is attainable for us.
Yes.
And that's the big difference between this and other religions. Like
Yeah.
other religions, you never get to be God, but in Buddhism, you can be a Buddha. So I just wanted
You
to
are
add
going
that
to be
the
Chenrezig right now.
conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. That's beautifully put. Okay, well, why don't we take just a 5-minute break, and then afterwards we're going to really dive very quickly into doing the mantra and then doing the practice. But I guess I have a question. Are people lost? Is anyone lost yet in this? No. Okay, that's a good sign. Okay, well, let's take just a 5-minute break, okay? Okay. Hi, everyone. I think we're all mostly back. Let's see. Hi, Elder. How are you today? Good to see you. I like how Caitlin and other people are outdoors. This is great. I thought I would mention two more references I really like. His Holiness Gyawa Karmapa. If you go to his website, the Karmapa, of course, I downloaded this app. I mean, I made this into a PDF, so I can't find the website yet, so I'll go back and look for it. But it just says the Karmapa teaches the practice and mantra of Chenrezig, and it's very well laid out. It's basic but very, very rich. So I really like it. And let me see if I have the Karmapa's website on my phone. Let's see if it's under coguoffice.org is the Karmapa. Oh, that's a little bright there. I do not have enough light. Too much light. Must be. Anyway, that didn't look right. That's not what's on my phone. That's just so funny. It's way too much light. So the whole website are teachings by the Karmapa. So if you go there and hit the 3 lines, you'll see his teachings, news, schedule. But his teachings are really beautiful. And this one was a teaching on YouTube that somebody typed out. So it's very well done. Thank you, Justin. That's great. Well, Justin just gave the link. Okay. So let's see who's here. Looks like almost everyone is here. So for a moment, we won't use, and by the way, people always ask me, what's with why aren't my tonkas uncovered? I keep forgetting to, I have really short legs, and to jump up on a ladder is really tricky because my tonkas have to have, these are cover cloths, always go over a tonka, like when you're traveling, you have that down and then roll it up. So I just dropped them down, found out they were really dusty, so I've been cleaning them too. I gotta get them back up. I miss seeing my tonkas. Okay, so now we are in the text, and also just to let you know, we're now going to talk about getting ready to recite the mantra. And we first, I'll do, let's see. Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate that greatly. Let's see where we are. Great. That Pagpa is perfect. So I'm going to read from the 15 Karmapas commentary for a moment. So we just said the 4 lines of supplication to Chenrezig, which were the Jawo, Lord not touched by any fault, white in color, who said at perfect Buddha crowns, gazing compassionately on all beings, Chenrezig, to you I prostrate. I'm just going to look at one thing that I have in my text that is not in the handout. So there's one part here. I just want to. No, that was how we got the DNA in the room. I did do that. Great. Now, in this text, we have a place where we can add more prayers for blessings and talk about blessings. Yes, blessings from those from the past. They say that, I was thinking about blessings that due to others in the past that have offered their merit so that those in the future can meet the Holy Dharma, that is why we are here today doing this. So we have to remember that we're all so connected through some type of blessing, some type of energy transfer. Okay, so there are 2 inserts. It's very common to have a lot of inserts in a practice. When I lived in India, I remember Chenrezig practice was a little bit more bare bones. We went from one part and then I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Well, what it is they didn't have the 2 inserts, and that's fine. But just to let you know, there are 2 inserts in the practice that we use. They're both by Pema Karpo, who was an earlier incarnation of the author of the text of Tantan Gyalpo. And so he wrote the 7-branch prayer, and there's several different versions of 7-branch prayer. And he also wrote a beautiful supplication. So at Pakpa Chenrezig, this goes on for several pages. So, and we don't have to, we'll just read it in English. So you can go back, we'll start. So let's begin. And the tune is often a little different, but So 7-branch prayer involves prostrations, offerings, confessions, rejoicing of merit, turning the wheel of Dharma, praying that the Buddhas do not pass from this timeline, and then dedicating the merit. And it's a very special prayer that is just full of blessings. So in English, I think my text is identical to yours. So, and in this part, we do not put our hands in prayer. Sometimes people do, but often we don't. In English, with deep and dear faith, I prostrate to the noble and profound Chenrezig, to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 10 times. So that's the first one, prostrations. Secondly, I make offerings, both actual and imagined, of flowers, incense, lights, perfume, music, and much else. The assembly of noble ones, please accept them. So often these are, oh, you can go back up. So these are just 4 stanzas each part. So let's see, we're right there. Assembly one, yeah, that's it, you got it. And then great. I'll read from yours. From beginningless time until now, and now this is the confession. I confess all the 10 unvirtuous acts and the 5 acts of immediate consequences, all the negative actions I've committed while influenced by mental afflictions. Next is rejoice in the merit. I rejoice in the merit of whatever virtue Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas and ordinary people have gathered throughout the 3 times. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater and lesser vehicles to meet the variety of motivations and different minds of living beings. So let's see. So far, we did prostrations, offerings, confessions, rejoicing in the merit, turning of the wheel. And then next, right now, we're doing praying for them not to pass until samsara is completely emptied. And some of you are new. We've referred to samsara today maybe 4 times. Sort of the world that we live in, that is one of positive and negative, of suffering and of pleasure and pain. This is in the world, we are considered on the wheel of samsara, where it never stops spinning. And in Buddhism, we're trying to jump off that wheel, to step back, but to help everyone that's still on the wheel. So it's referred to so many times. Until samsara is completely emptied, I beseech you not to pass into nirvana, do not go into enlightenment, and to look with great compassion on all living beings caught in an ocean of suffering. And then the last one, may whatever merit I've accumulated become a cause for the enlightenment of all beings, not taking long. May I soon become a magnificent guide for living beings. So it's pretty amazing. We made all these different requests, and yet at the end, there we are, we're stepping forward. It's pretty amazing. The second insert prayer, and I'm going to see how I translated it. Let me see here. It is called The Supplication of Calling with Longing, written by Pema Karpo, again, who was the previous incarnation of Tatang Yapa. And this is a very beautiful prayer. Here we're going to visit the 6 realms of existence. But first, there's a little intro. Lama Chenrezig, I supplicate you. Yiram Chenrezig, I supplicate you. Noble Supreme Chenrezig, I supplicate you. Refuge and Protector Chenrezig, I supplicate you. Kind Protector Chenrezig, I supplicate you. Buddha of great compassion, hold me in your compassion. Innumerable beings have wandered in endless samsara and experienced unbearable suffering. Protector, they have no other refuge than you. Please bless them that they attain the omniscience that is awakening. Compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time, living beings throughout the force of anger are born as hell beings. They experience the suffering of heat and cold. Supreme Deity, may they all be born in your presence. Don't move anything. Go back, back. Om Mani Padme Hum. So we're going to visit all 6 realms right now. They all begin with the same line, Tome Dune, or compelled by negative karma. And then they're going to tell what type of negativity. Here, beings in the hell realm are there due to the force of their anger, and they experience the suffering of heat and cold. Also, they suffer a much longer timeline of being in that realm. Supreme Deity, may they all be born in your presence. Om Mani Padme Hum. And what you might not know is this is actually a 6-syllable mantra. It's Om, and then it's some of the letters have been put together, but let me say it. Hold on. It's Om Mani. It's a backwards ni. The tongue flicks. Om Mani Padme Hum. So I have a handout later. I'll show you. But the Om is the God realm. The Ma is the angry God realm. Ni is human. Pe Me Hum, animal, hungry ghost, and hell realm. Hell realm is home. So these are all different colors. And one of these days I've got to do a class just on that because it's such a cool thing. But anyway, that's Om Mani Padme Hum. So, all right, you can keep going now, Tracy. Sorry. Thank you. So the second realm is, again, remember, it starts the same. Compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time, living beings through the force of miserliness are born in the realm of hungry ghosts and experience the suffering of hunger and thirst. May they be born in your supreme realm, the Potala. I'm going to talk for a minute. So if any of you have ever seen a Hieronymus Bosch painting where the beings have gigantic bellies and pencil-thin, needle-thin throats, that is what the hungry ghosts, there's many different types of hungry ghosts, but that's one style where they're always thirsty and hungry because they have such a huge stomach to fill, but such a tiny neck that they can't eat or drink much. And they live like in a desert. So that's the second group. The third one, okay, you can move it a little bit. Compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time, living beings through the force of bewilderment are born as animals and experience the suffering of dullness and stupidity. Protector, may they all be born in your presence, Om Mani Padme Hum. So many people get upset when they see this about that they're dumb. But what they mean by that is, if you might be able to teach a parrot how to do a mantra, but would it really know what it's doing? Would it really know the benefit of the visualization? And it really touches on Khenpo Rinpoche. When he taught this one summer, he would spend like a week going through each realm, and he really talked about so many of the animals we see are mostly just really sweet animals that we take care of and really worry about. But there's so many animals that suffer, a suffering that is unbearable, especially, and we can see this many times, including, of course, now all the animals in slaughterhouses, all the animals in the ocean that from 360 degrees are being attacked. It's something I don't think we can even imagine. So here we also pray for them and say, Om Mani Padme Hum. And when we go through each of these, you can imagine that realm from that light goes to that realm and removes your suffering. Okay, next to the humans, compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time, sentient beings through the force of desire are born in the realm of humans and experience the suffering of constant toil and poverty. Boy, that really hits it, doesn't it? May they be born in the supreme land of Dewa Chen. So I haven't talked about this. They talked about Potala and Dewa Chen. So Chenrezig's, the head of his lineage is Amitabha, and Amitabha is, his Buddha realm is called Dewa Chen. And in order for most of us to go from being who we are right now, for our next birth to be in a Buddha realm would be impossible, because we wouldn't be monastic, or we would not lived a perfect life, and so many different things. A lot of qualifications that we don't have. Amitabha was very incredibly generous. First of all, Amitabha decided to send out Chenrezig from one of his tears and green Tara. Later on, the origin story is Tara comes from tears of Chenrezig. But also the first story is Amitabha saw the suffering of beings and decided Chenrezig would be perfect to help them. And his realm is very special, and many of us do a practice called POA, where we're taught how, when we're dying, how to leave our body correctly and to be reborn there instantly. And the only ticket you need to buy, and it's free, is just to have faith in Amitabha, and he will be waiting for you, and you will wake up in a lotus flower hearing his teachings. So that is the Dewa Chen, means land of great happiness, and that is Amitabha's Buddha realm, which sounds a little bit like heaven, and many of us have had huge debates with Rinpoche about that. And he said, this is not heaven. You go there for further training. He said it never stops to help sentient beings. But anyway, that is what Dewa Chen is. Thank you. And now moving on. Now we're on the fifth one. Compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time. Living beings through the force of jealousy are born in the realm of demigods and experience the suffering of fighting and quarrel. May they be born in your realm, the Patala. And the next one, I forgot timeline. I've got to keep moving here. Compelled by negative karma gathered from beginningless time, living beings through the force of pride are born in the realm of gods and experience the suffering of change and downfall, which happens right before they die. May they be born in the realm of Patala. Om Mani Padme Hum. So let me catch up on my text here. Sorry. And then now we do the practice of absorption to the three faculties of the deity through emanating and gathering. After praying the lines above, immeasurable light in 5 hues, 5 colors, but predominantly white, radiates from the form of Chenrezig above your head and shines on all beings, including yourself. This light instantly washes away all present moral failings or weaknesses, defilements, obscurations, unwholesomeness, unskilled actions, or whatever is lacking since beginningless time that has gotten in the way of you not becoming a Buddha. So let's read this now. Let me just make sure I'm at the right place in my text. So I think this part is still part of the other one. At Dakni, I'll just read it. Okay, you can scroll up a little bit. Thank you. Keep going. The other way. Perfect, perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Finally, let the mind remain absorbed in its own essential nature without making distinction between subject, object, and act, and then repeat. I'm just looking. We're not in the right place. Could you go back down a little bit? Okay, let's slow down a little bit. No, we're at the end. So go back up. Keep going. Okay, keep going just a little bit because there's a mantra there. I think it's the top of this page. That's neat. Thank you. Then through all my existences, so ignore whatever I just said. So we had just said Om Mani Padme Hum. We did for all 6 realms, finishing with the God realm. Then through all my existences, may my deeds equal Chenrezig's. In this way, may all beings be liberated from the impure realms, and may the perfect sound of your 6-syllable mantra pervade the 10 directions. By the power of supplicating you, most noble and perfect one, may all those who will be my disciples take seriously the causes of and effects of karma and diligently practice virtuous acts. May they take up dharma for the good of all. By having prayed like this one pointedly, light rays radiating from the noble Chenrezig purify the appearances of delusion. The outer world of the environment becomes the pure land of bliss. The body, speech, and mind of beings. The inner world becomes the body, speech, and mind of Chenrezig. All appearance, sound, and awareness are inseparable from emptiness. So at this point, we are all purified and we are all now Chenrezig, where it says the body, speech, and mind of beings, the inner world, become the body, speech, and mind of Chenrezig. So the outer world is the world of pure bliss, and we, our body, speech, and mind, are now that of Chenrezig. In all appearance, sound, and awareness are inseparable from emptiness. Emptiness is another name for one of our goals of awakening, resting in our true nature. It's not empty the way we normally think of as empty. And that is a 6-syllable mantra there. And this is where my alarms are good. And this is where we actually start chanting the mantra. So let me just for a moment make sure I'm at the same place in my text. And here. So I'm going to read a little bit from the commentary. And this is a repetition. After praying above, immeasurable light in 5 hues, but predominantly white, radiates from Chenrezig. So you're still yourself, and Chenrezig is above your head. The light instantly washes away all failings, weaknesses, obscurations, unwholesomeness, any negativities of all beings. Since time without beginning, the propensity for bewilderness has both grasped externally at others and clung internally to a self. They're particularly talking about even when we're born, we were born grasping to ourselves, just thinking I versus you. Now, when the light dispels this obscuration of discursive conceptual knowledge and its associated habits, you are blessed with the indivisible dynamics of the physical, verbal, and mental faculties of Chenrezig. This means you become Chenrezig in body, speech, and mind, and visualize yourself in this way. Now, then Chenrezig above your head becomes even, and so this is not necessarily in the text itself, but this is what I was talking about, why you need to have instructions. Then Chenrezig above your head becomes even more radiant. His light pervades every place in the 6 realms, turning all realms into Dewa Chen, the realm of Amitabha. This Buddha realm of great bliss has no earth, mountains, stone, or so forth. It is made entirely of light from rainbows and jewels, and each being in the 6th realm is liberated from their particular suffering, from their karma, and transformed into the clear and bright form of Chenrezig. All sounds and noises reverberate as the hum of the 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. So now we would spend 5 to 10 minutes doing Om Mani Padme Hum. We would just chant the mantra. And sometimes at home, people will do this for hours, or they will do a shorter version of the Chenrezig practice. Maybe they would put the inserts in and then go back and do more, because a lot of people have made a commitment to do at least 600,000 or 1 million Om Mani Padme Hums. And how do they do that? Well, they do that by, this is the prayer beads, and I've shown this before. So we can get out of the practice now. Is that okay? Okay, so I just wanted to show you. So we have many tools for doing the practice. Many people use prayer wheels. I forgot to bring mine upstairs. I always keep them up downstairs, so when I'm watching TV, I have a prayer wheel. But this is prayer. These are prayer beads, and you can. There are many different type of prayer beads. Let me see if my others are in here. No, elsewhere. These are lotus seed. They have. There's always one bead that's a little bit bigger. It's called a guru bead. It has 3 holes. So this side and this side are joined and come up through the middle and go up to the top. And there's some extra things on my beads. Normally there are 108 beads. And sometimes there's extra counters. But whenever we do a round of these, and a round is when you do we start here and go around, and that would be 1 round. And many of us have counters, which we can talk about some other time how to use them. But when we do them, even if you have extra beads on yours, you just count 100, even though there's 108 for all the mistakes we're making. So there are many different things you can visualize when you're doing this practice. You can visualize, I think in the beginning, for new people, particularly Kali Rinpoche has always said, it's wonderful just to rest on the sound itself. Om Mani Padme Hum. And we repeat it constantly. It would go, we would sing Om Mani Padme Hum together, and then we would go back and start chanting Om Mani Padme Hum on your own for accumulation. And each time you say it, you would move the bead. Typically, it's held in the left hand because the right hand is used for moving the text. That's why. And for me, I bring the beads towards me. They're coming this way, and I'm kind of exaggerating. And then I would come to the guru bead, and then I would flip it around. It's like Ghostbusters. You don't cross the lights, you don't cross the guru bead, and then you go back. And when we're doing this, particularly in the beginning, I think it's very good to first just rest on the sound, and also rest on reminding. You might even want to go back and quickly go through what has transpired in the practice. Or if you're really comfortable where you are, then Chenrezig was on your head, and then he completely washed away all your negativities, and he filled you with his light, and now you are Chenrezig. So you sit there, and that's what's unique about Vajrayana. At a certain point, our true awakened nature, or Buddha nature, is what's tapped into. And so Vajrayana is a swift path, and in it, we actually start building up a great deal of confidence, not only in ourselves, but all sentient beings. So when you practice the Om Mani Padme Hum, you can focus on sound. You can use visualizations of visualizing, as you're saying the mantra, you might visualize first the hell realms and think of what the suffering they go through. And there's many books that go through the details. Or you can just rest on the mantra and think of that realm. And then after a few minutes, maybe go to the other realm. Or if you have a really large type of it, some people have a big mind, maybe visualize the entire universe, sending the light rays out from your heart as Chenrezig, and the Chenrezig in front of you, removing all suffering, or just resting on the sound, removing the suffering. So that is some of the ways that you can do this. I'm going to now go to Rinpoche's book and see if he says anything else. Are there any questions right now? I can't see anybody. Let's see, change the view. Kim, are you okay? Okay, I wasn't sure. She might be. Some people have a different look when they concentrate. Okay, so anyway, I thought what?
Can I ask a very quick question?
Sure, if I can answer it.
You were discussing the direction that you're moving the mala. I find that very difficult. Does it matter which direction that you move?
No.
Okay.
No, do it whatever is easier for you. Yeah. Good question. Okay, so I think now let's go back. since we have a little bit of time, so we have a choice. We could spend some time doing manis together, or would you like to do the chanting and go through the beginning of the text all the way through?
Lamo, someone has a question.
Uh-huh. People can always just put their hands up too, or just
Yep,
speak
they
up.
raise their hand, so hopefully it's
Okay.
the only person.
Go ahead.
Are you saying I should go ahead with my question? This is Leona
Please
May on
do.
the phone.
Yeah.
Great,
that's-
thank you. I sort of remember that each syllable of the mantra purifies a certain aspect of our character. Does that sound familiar? And could you say what those are?
Could you say that? And they purify what?
They purify problems in our character. So like purify our speech, purify our body, purify our mind, things like that. Is there something like that? I'm not remembering enough to ask a very skillful question, but
No, that's
that each
skillful,
syllable
but I'm just
purifies.
thinking. I primarily don't worry about myself. Normally this practice, the main focus is to work with the 6 realms of existence. And we will
Okay.
be getting the benefits anyway. And Lama, Cathy and I talked about this.
Obscurations, I guess purifying, each syllable purifies a certain obscuration. I think that's what I'm remembering.
I'm sure
but I
they
don't
do, and
remember
that was
what
on
they're
my
called.
other handout, which of course I can't find today because I had a really great handout that had all that extra information, but I don't have that right now. So, but if you think about it, as we're doing the practice, when we're doing, the Om is pride, Ma is miserliness, Ni is desire. It has to do a direct correlation with the 6 realms. Those are characteristics and neuroses we all have. It's not just in those realms that they have pride, and we all have those. So that's maybe what you're referring to.
Okay, that sounds, yeah. So I'll look
Yeah.
at the
But
realms. Thank
in
you.
most of the training I've always had, it's very important during the mantra to really focus on all sentient beings, because the whole point of this is to take on the activity of Chenrezig, which is to help all beings. So yes, but
Okay.
yes, that will come also. That's a good question.
Okay,
Any
so
other
the
questions?
primary-
Sally has a question.
Go ahead, Sally.
When I tried the Chenrezig practice, I get all these puddles. As much as I love the visualizations, I get very confused and pressured about what people are doing and when. And I just know there's such a richness there, but I just have a lot of trouble with that.
I love that you're so honest about that. I think everyone does. And I spoke to Rinpoche so many times about different styles of teaching this practice. And he said, you can give them a lot and tell them, take from it what they need. So, and even for myself, I often just rely primarily on the text. The text has a lot of highlights, and I might put a note here or there, like visualize light or something. I have cheaters in my text so that I stay inspired. But I think the most important thing, I was watching a video just now earlier today by Kala Rinpoche, and he said, just find one thing. Khenpo Rinpoche often talked about, just focus on the eyes of Chenrezig. You're so loving, to emulate that type of thing. Or is it going from section to section that's hard, or?
Yeah, section to section. And I have a short practice with Chenrezig, and it has notations on visualizing, and I can't quite remember, and it's very disruptive to me as much as I want to do it.
Well, I think anything you do is perfect. So why don't you just start out and just enjoy the words, and maybe take time to read. I mean, even when I practice Medicine Buddha, which I've done for years, many times a week, I will stop and read my notes or read the teachings of Trungpa Rinpoche to further enrich. And it doesn't mean I'll have that during the practice, but maybe later it will inspire me. So with Chenrezig, you might just want to start with refuge. Just imagine Chenrezig's on your head. Throughout the whole practice, he's on your head. You're yourself. Make some offerings. And then when it comes to the point in the text where they talk about his features, look at in the front of your text and we'll show a picture of him. And look at that. And then just take it at your own pace. But when you're with a group, just fake it. Just sit in with the group and enjoy it. That's what I highly recommend. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah, so, and I haven't even touched on the very end of this practice. We dissolve everything and relax in the nature of our mind. So basically, just think of Chenrezig above your head. And if that's too hard, just a presence. If that's too much detail, everyone has a different taste and nature. And then I think the easiest though is, and especially in this practice, is you're just yourself. There's this wonderful energy. So, you know, in the beginning where there's the lotus and the moon, and don't worry about all that. Just think of Chenrezig as just sitting on your head when you start. That's perfect. And because that's what we're going to get to anyway. And then just go from there. Remind yourself of his features. Say a prayer of supplication. You don't have to do all those extra inserts. And then get to the mantra. And just say the mantra for all sentient beings. And at the end, just let everything dissolve. And the text will guide you through that, even the short text. Okay? Great question. Okay, so it's time.
Hold on, you're muted.
How did I mute myself?
Actually, I think I did it by accident. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I'm thinking, was I talking to Sally? Thank you. Okay, so we've done the mantra, and you've done hundreds of mantras, or you've done 5. The most important thing is what's in your heart. And if you're having a really bad day, just do it anyway. It doesn't matter. And then at the end, as with all Vajrayana practices, we don't hold on to anything, because already I bet if you're anything like me, you've made this a little solid, and this is not solid. He's made a pure light, which, you know, we make pure light pretty solid anymore. So at the very end, let's see, could you bring the text up one more time, my dear? I'm so sorry, I forgot. There's the dissolution. Thank you. This is towards right after this. We're going to finish up now. Great, thank you. So now, and how I am reading from the insert in my text, which is probably in a lot of yours, it says, this is after the Om Mani Padme Hum. It says, meditate like this as you recite the mantra. Finally, let the mind remain absorbed in its own essential nature, without making distinctions between subject, object, and action. Then repeat. So we've not yet done any, we just did a slight absorption after the mantra, like a pause.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I'm just looking here. I'm just gonna look one more place. I'm trying to think, did I put that? Oh, great.
Okay.
So there is a slight dissolution that's done, and this is it. Right after the mantra, it says, the bodies of myself and others appear as the form of Chenrezig. All sound is the melody of a 6-syllable mantra. Our remembrance and thought is the great expanse of primordial wisdom. Through virtue of this practice, may I swiftly achieve the level of powerful Chenrezig. On the same level, may I place then every being, no one left behind. Then, with the merit of the meditation and repetition, may I and every being to whom I'm connected, as soon as these imperfect bodies are left behind, be born miraculously in the pure realm of bliss, which is Dewa Chen. Immediately after taking birth there, may we pass through the 10 levels, those Buddha levels, and fill the 10 directions with emanations to benefit beings. And the dedication is through this virtue, may all beings perfect the accumulation of merit and wisdom. May they attain the 2 separate kayas and arise from merit and wisdom. May precious bodhicitta arise within those where it has not arisen. And where bodhicitta has arisen, may it never decline. May it grow and flourish. So that is the end of the practice, but I did leave out the dissolution. So I wrote a note on here that it wasn't marked very well. So I'm going to go over this. This is a very important part. Tracy, can we scroll back up to the bottom? Bye, Matthew. Thank you for being here. Go up right where the mantra is. Hold on, there, that dot. Okay. So right after the mantra, in this text, some text talks about dissolutions. This text is a little more vague around that. It slightly mentions it. It says, finally, after the mantra, let the mind remain absorbed in its own essential nature without making distinction between subject and object. So this is a rather important point for you to learn. This is called dissolution. And this is where, after the mantra, you might hear, if you're in a group setting, you'll hear a gong. And that means take a moment and just dissolve the visualization. And if you're a detailed person, you can go wild on this. Dissolve Chenrezig, all the way to the mantra in his heart, which we haven't even talked about. Or we can, the visualization can be very detailed. But I thought I would read you the 15 Karmapas instruction. First, dissolve the visualization like this. All beings in the 6 realms, in the form of, remember, everyone's turned into Chenrezig, and all the 6 realms, seen as Dewa Chen, dissolve into light and merge into the Chenrezig above your head. So basically everything dissolves into light and merges to Chenrezig above you. Then Chenrezig above your head dissolves into light and merges into you. As you yourself dissolve into light, rest evenly in your own essence, exactly as it is, the great, encompassing, pervasive sphere of phenomena, the mind of Chenrezig. These are big words. Free from viewing and being viewed, with appearance, sound, knowledge, and emptiness as inseparable. All your concepts and intellectual distinctions, such as empty or not empty, present or not present, existent and non-existent, are abandoned. Rest in emptiness and brilliantly clarity without constant concern for subject, object, or activity, all of which cling to duality, deity, and mantra. So that tiny paragraph right there where it says, finally, let the mind remain absorbed in its essential nature without making distinctions between subject, object, and action, are what I just said. So we, for a moment, and so how do we do that? You can have everything also just dissolve the emptiness into its true nature, I should say, and rest your mind. You actually just let your mind drop of all conceptuality for just a moment. And then the moment your regular thinking starts up again, go back and start reading the end of the text, which is that the bodies of myself and the others appear in the form of Chenrezig. So this is how we end it. The end, we're Chenrezig again. And so that's how the practice ends. It's very beautiful. So it's already 12. I want to thank you all for being here today. I'm sorry, it's a lot of stuff to take on, I know, but okay, that's enough, Tracy. Thanks. I'll just talk to everyone now. And are there any pressing questions?